Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Carrie Roldan Show, where we spend 30 minutes or so having having conversations that matter to the entrepreneur's body, mind, and business. I'm your host, Carrie Roldan, and I'm a wife, a mother, a runner, a best-selling author, a personal growth junkie, and the creator of the Body-mind-business Reboot. And I help heart-centered women entrepreneurs who feel fat, foggy, and frustrated to balance their hormones so they can lose weight and feel at home in their bodies again and show up and be the person that they were designed to be. So did you know that balancing your hormones could actually help you lose weight and make more money? That's right. Your hormones are linked to your energy level, your productivity, and even your bank account. So if you've been feeling sluggish, fatigued, stuck in your business, and uninspired, then my Body-mind-business Reboot may be your next best step. If you are an amazing woman over the age of 40 who knows that she was put on this earth to serve a purpose, but feel weighed down by your physical body. Maybe you're having symptoms such as weight gain, fatigue, headaches, brain fog. Maybe you just know something is off. Then I urge you to take my hormone quiz today. Just go to carrieroldan.com/hormone quiz, and that will get you started to see if the Body-mind-business Reboot is the right next step for you. Or if you'd like to schedule a conversation with me right away, because I know there are those of you who are just like that, you can go to carrieroldan.com/apply. That's my phone ringing. Sorry about that. To schedule your call with me. All right. Maybe that's one of you calling actually right now. All right, you guys, as many of you know, I created the Carrie Roldan Show because I have stumbled and I continue to on my entrepreneurial journey because the road to success thus far has been full of potholes, detours, and dead ends, not to mention self-doubt, fear, worry, debt, marital tension, and personal struggle. And I wanted to share what I continue to learn on my journey in the hopes that it will help you guys too. Because I know that online entrepreneurhood can be a super lonely place. And I'm on a mission to help us connect to each other and to the resources that we need to thrive in our businesses. Which is why I'm really excited about my guest today, because I'm watching her on my screen. You can't see her on yours yet, but just like nod away as I talk about my entrepreneurial journey and the road to success and sabotage and all of that stuff. So our topic today is how to get out of your own way, so that you can get on with the business you were meant to build. You guys, this is something that I've dealt with on a regular basis for years, but right now at this time and place in my business, like this show is so much for me. So I hope it helps you guys too. But selfishly, I have invited Coach Jenny on because I need what she has to offer. So let me tell you about Coach Jenny and then I will introduce her. So Jenny Mustafa, I hope it's saying that right, like Julock. Basically, no one can pronounce her last name, so she calls herself Coach Jenny. Jenny is known as the Audacity Coach, and she is the author of an amazing book called Hilda, Tackle Your Inner Naysayer, Get Out of Your Own Way, and Unleash Your Badassery. And after spending a few minutes with her, you'll find that she does not subscribe to the gentle encouragement coaching thing. Her signature cathartic shoves get you unstuck and unstoppable. That BS-free approach to so much more than life coaching helps her and her clients to build the audacious lives that they've been designed to live. So, Jenny, I'm going to change my mouse, change my view, and put you on the screen. Say hello to everybody.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Carrie. What a great introduction.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you so much for being here. So for those of you, I guess I haven't told you guys, I fell in love with Jenny. I met her by accident like a month or two ago and went to her website, fell in love with everything about it, fell in love with Hilda, who she's going to talk about today, and just really, I resonate with you, Jenny, so much as a human.
Right.
The way you relate to the world. So I know my people are going to love you too. So I'm just going to dive right in and ask, how did you get to become the Audacity Coach? How did you get to be this place where you could write a book, an amazing book, by the way? You can get it one at hildathebook.com on self-sabotage.
Great questions. Thank you so much. Well, those are kind of two different answers. I decided to become the Audacity coach a little over 10 years ago when I was at that crossroads point in my life. I feel like this is an entrepreneurhood story of yore. Everybody has this story. I was laid off from my job and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I knew I don't know what I want, but I know it ain't this. And I decided to hang out my shingle and become a coach. Now, I'd studied life coaching and career coaching, professional coaching, executive coaching, all of those different fields. None of them fit. So I decided to create my own category and call myself the Audacity coach, which kind of encompasses a lot of those things. And I like to describe it as so much more than just life coaching, because I am not for everybody. I'm an acquired taste, some may say. Like you were saying before, I shove people. I don't nudge you sweetly into, just outside of your comfort zone. We obliterate comfort zones in my world. So now the other question you had though, how did I become this chick who talks about self-sabotage? That was not the plan. I wanted to be this audacious coach, right? This woman who talks about audacity and positive, bold, yummy things all the time. But the truth is that even the most audacious humans on the planet struggle with squandering their own potential, with sitting on their own power, with getting in their own way. I mean, straight up, just getting in our own way. And I throw myself in here. It is my biggest fear to have the regret that I could have done so much more. I could have experienced so much more. I could have made such a bigger impact, but life got in the way. I got in my own way. That was the reason I didn't do it. That regret scares the bejesus out of me. And I don't want that to happen to anyone. So that's why I decided to write this book on the inner naysayer that I call Hilda.
So before we talk about Hilda, you just said two things that just freaking stabbed me in the heart.
Ooh.
And yes, and I wrote them down, and they stabbed me in the heart because I blogged about this last week, I think, or I'm not even sure if I published that blog yet, but regardless, this has been on my brain lately. Is I had a friend who told me that she read an article that said only 4% of the human populace that was surveyed actually wants to, aspires to achieve their innate potential. Mm-hmm. And yet for me, and I know everybody who's gravitating toward me and so many entrepreneurs, that is the thing that gets us going, that motivates us, that keeps us picking ourselves up every time we fall down, is that inner knowing, I am made for something bigger than this, right? I'm designed for something incredible. I call it busting at the seams with potential. I can feel something, I'm made for something bigger. But you said these two things that hit me: squandering your potential and sitting on your own power. And despite the fact that I feel like I've been learning and growing and putting myself out there and stepping out of my comfort zone and doing all kinds of stuff, those two things hit me because I'm a constant grower, but because I feel like, oh shit, that's me, especially sitting on my own power. I got a strong image of me actually sitting on my own hands like this. Yeah. So talk to me about that. And let's assume that we're all doing it. And who's Hilda and how does she come into this?
Yeah. When I was writing the book, one of the things I was doing in my research is really kind of paying attention to the traditional, most common slices of wisdom, memes, and quotes that people get really riled up about. And this might ruffle some feathers, but I don't really care. Marianne Williamson kind of famously said, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, that we're terrified of our own potential. Right? We're just so afraid of our potential. I call BS. Sorry, Marianne. I don't think that we audacious people, and again, I know we're weird. Like you were saying, the 4% of the human, we're weird people. But that's why Carrie and I get along so well. We weird, audacious types, we're not afraid of our potential. We're afraid of squandering it. Right? We're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm so terrified that I might have all this potential and I could do great things. No, we're terrified that we won't get off our asses and do the great things, that we won't get past our own silly fears and do those things and try those things and be visible and put ourselves out there. We get in our own way of like comparing ourselves to others, being like, well, you know, she's got 2 more years than I do, so maybe I shouldn't be, whatever. We get stuck on that. We worry about what that broad from high school is going to think, who's a friend of ours on Facebook, before we hit the Facebook Live. But it's so silly. There's all these silly ways that we get in our own way. And a lot of it comes from that mental chatter that we all have, that irksome inner naysaying voice that's in the back of your brain saying, you suck. Who do you think you are? What are you thinking? You should really second guess that again, or any of those things. I decided that we needed to really figure out that inner noise. Now, I'm not the first one to talk about that, certainly. I mean, Napoleon Hill wrote a book on it. Of course, there's Taming Your Gremlins. Seth Godin talks about it as the lizard brain. It goes all sciencey. I opt for the absurd. So I wanted to humanize this voice and name her something ridiculous. So that's how I came up with Hilda. Apologies to women named Hilda out there. You can call yours Jenny. We're even. Right? But I named her Hilda because it was the most ridiculous name I could think of. And I realized that this voice in my head is a demented documentarian. Okay. So Hilda's this person that comes into your brain at birth and starts collecting every memory, every quote, every embarrassment, every failure, every success, collecting that into this library for her documentary. And as soon as you're about to do something that matters, she sets up a screening and cuts it together like a documentarian would, right? Like a Michael Moore, if you would. Michael Moore, love his movies, by the way, but you know, they're obviously his point of view because he cuts it that way. That's what Hilda does. She's going to cut a documentary, fill your head with all these thoughts to remind you how it felt when you embarrassed yourself. And that holds you back.
So the thing that I'm loving about everything you just said is it's a really timely, I'm cracking myself up. I'm like, this is not going to be that good now because I've made it so good in my head. But okay. Hilda is like the fake news, right? She's
alternative facts. Yes, she is.
Yes. Okay. So Hilda is, I was like tickled pink with that. Like, yeah. But that is making sense to me that, and this is something those of us in the personal development realm, you know, we understand. But what I find so incredibly amazing is just because I know that there's a voice in my head, right? That there's a skewed perspective, that there's alternative facts and fake news. And, you know, Hilda, right? That the bitch that lives in my head, like all of that. I know she's there from a cognitive place. And yet I still, when you said about to do something that matters, right? Like yeah. I still, when I'm about to do something that matters, and hello people, everyone raise your hand, like when you're about to do something that matters, how often have you, and I know you have Hildas that fall into 4 categories, so I want to talk about that, because how often have you, like my go-to is put it off because I'm just not quite right yet, or maybe the timing, like I'll make some excuses around that. Yeah. Or I will tell myself, it's already been done. Who am I to think that I could do it better, different? Like, those are sort of my things where I really get into, I get very excited in the idea phase and it's going to be so great. But when it finally goes to putting it out there and doing something, that is when my self-sabotage hits. And I know everybody who's watching is either going through this right now or has gone through it or is about to go through it with the next thing that they create.
Absolutely.
So can you explain to us maybe the categories? What I liked about your book was how easy it was to identify my Hildas. And you guys, you have to get it. Go to hildathebook.com because the way that it is written, the voice, you'll fall in love. You can tell just by listening to Jenny, like, words are delicious. You'll love it.
Thank you so much.
Describe the 4 Hildas for us and help us out here.
Absolutely. So when I started writing this book, I thought I was going to write about this one chick named Hilda who had one trick up her sleeve, which was sabotaging you. But I came to find out it's a lot more layered than that. But before I dive into that, I just want to say one quick note to what you were saying, Carrie. Yeah. You're right. All of us in the personal development field have heard of the inner critic. And usually one of 2 things happens. And I'm just going to go there, people. There's usually some dude, it's always a dude, who says, well, if you have those inner gremlins, just ignore them. Gee, thanks. If it were that simple, buddy, right? Like every time I hear that advice, it angers me to no end. It's not that simple. This voice is in our head all the time. And you talk to yourself 90% of the time, right? Most of the time we're talking to ourselves. We don't like to think we are, but we are. We're spending all this time up in our heads, and we have to be able to address it. So that's why I created Hilda, to create a fun, silly, ridiculous way to address it. Okay, so with that in mind, there are 4 different Hildas that I discovered. And briefly, they are: I can't Hilda, I can't, I shouldn't, I don't know, and I don't wanna. So I'm going to describe them really briefly so you can get a sense. So there's these 4 different BS beliefs, just total bullshit that she wants you to buy into. And if she can't, it falls into one of those 4 categories. First, she's going to say, I can't. So I can't is all about, there's something wrong with you, Carrie. I mean, there's just something special about you that makes you incapable, less badass than all the other humans, right? And so she's attacking you from the inside out and really trying to get you to doubt yourself. I shouldn't, Hilda. She's not so worried about the inside, it's more the outside. I shouldn't is worried about how everybody's going to see her. Right? So it's that outside in. How are they going to perceive me? Am I going to embarrass myself? Embarrassment is the worst fear of I shouldn't, Hilda. She's obsessed with what other people think about her, right? Popularity contest. Then I don't know and I don't want to, Hilda. It's not so much an inside outside thing. It's more what you were talking about a moment ago, Carrie. It has to do with the work you're about to do. So I don't know, Hilda is terrified of crossing the starting line. Right? And that's who you were talking about a moment ago. I have these big ideas, love hanging out in idea mode. But you know what? Before I push the button and tell anybody about this, I'm just going to work a little bit harder. Maybe I need a new productivity system, that kind of stuff. So it's all that stalling before you actually hit go. I don't want to, Hilda's the opposite. She'll start stuff all day long, but the finish line, forget about it. I don't want to, Hilda is actually kind of tricky because she shows up like an enabler. Hey, did you know that there's this new TV show on the Netflix that you could watch instead of working on that thing that really matters to you? Wouldn't that be fun? You deserve a day off. Come play. Right? That's I don't want to, Hilda. Whereas I don't know, Hilda's like, got you like stressed out in the second guessing cycle of suckdom where she's just like, no, but what if? I don't want to, Hilda's on the opposite. And for different people, sometimes one of those Hildas, you're thinking, yes, that's mine all the time, all the way. Other people are like, ooh, in this life compartment, like when it comes to taking care of my body, I'm all in this, I don't want to, Hilda. She's constantly feeding me candy. But when it comes to my profession, it's I shouldn't. I'm worried about what other people are going to think. And then if you're like me, you get a visit from all 4 of these bitches, no matter what you're doing. So it can vary quite a bit.
I am so appreciating the way that you described that, and especially the last thing that you said about how they can show up differently in different areas of your lives. And I have a friend, Cynthia Carrere. Those of you who watch the show, I think she's amazing. And when I first met her, the thing that like connected us is she said she wanted to write a book or do something with this idea of, are you weird about? And the whole idea was like, how come you're so successful and you can earn a ton of money and you can but you can't lose those 50 pounds? Or how come you can be so great in all these other areas, but you can't earn any money? Or how come you could be great in all these areas, but you can't hold a relationship, and you just sort of explain that in like, oh, that's why we're weird about one area of our lives and not others, is because Hilda talks to us differently that area. She shows up differently in that area. Like we can manage her in these other areas of our lives. We shove her over to the compartment. That was my aha for the day. It's like, oh, and I think that was just a really freeing moment for me. So I hope it was for everybody else. For those of us who are so amazing and so successful and so capable and I don't know, whatever adjective you want to use to describe yourself in so many areas of our lives, but we beat ourselves up for that one thing, right? Whether it's, I can't lose weight, or I can't stay disciplined when it comes to my blog writing schedule or whatever it is, like recognizing, oh, that's where Hilda lives.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I just went to hildathebook.com and I opted in for something. And can you tell me what it is? Because I just like did it. I went to hildathebook.com and went, okay, what am I going to get? But
yes, you're getting the handy dandy Hilda cheat sheet, because I like to say things very goofily. If I can make it goofy, I will. So the handy dandy Hilda cheat sheet is just a one sheeter. So you can see these 4 different Hildas kind of laid out. You can see my amazing artist, Renee Bates, who actually, she made her Hilda look like this, right? She created the 4 different Hildas that you'll see. And you can see these different poses of Hilda correspond to those 4 different BS beliefs I was just describing. And you can learn about that. You can also, when you're on my page at the top, there's a button that says, who's my Hilda, or who's your Hilda? You can click on that and take the quiz, and it'll ask you some questions so you can see which Hilda you've been listening to the most lately. Again, knowing that Hilda shows up in different forms, you may say, well, yeah, that fits or not. And some people are like, I'm an I shouldn't Hilda all the way. Other people, it varies. And it really depends on how your inner Hilda has decided to sabotage you. She's a tricky, tricky bitch.
She is, because when you were talking, I just realized, ooh, I got 2 Hildas that are like arm wrestling and they suck. Well, I'm big on I can't, although that's sort of like, I feel like I've outgrown her, but I used to feel incapable a lot. Like I'm not capable of this. I feel like I've come into my own around that one.
Great.
And I shouldn't, honestly, has never been a problem for me. The public humiliation, par for the course. But I don't know, and I don't wanna. I realize, like, you're saying they're polar opposites, and I'm like, dang it, they are, and yet they are working together.
Yeah, they can be in cahoots. It's really kind of ugly, because here's the thing with I don't know and I don't wanna. You don't hear from these broads to go to the grocery store. I mean, unless you're a fine chef or something and you're trying to create the meal of your lifetime. That's kind of an everyday thing for most of us, right? But when you're out there doing something that really matters to you, when you're actually in the business of doing that thing that you are meant to do, that you were designed to do, as you put it, Carrie, right? When you're actually choosing to put some more effort and love into that, those Hildas are losing their minds. Because this is going to sound counterintuitive, but Hilda means well, believe it or not. The broad has the shittiest way of treating you, but all she wants to do is keep you safe and cozy and make sure you never get hurt. You never fail. I mean, you'll never succeed, but that's okay. You'll never fail, right? You'll never be like in that ball, in the fetal position in the ball in your bathroom floor crying and sobbing because you totally failed at something. That will never happen to you if you just listen, right? Now, the way she goes about it is really crummy. She makes you second guess, and I don't know, she's second guessing, what ifing, questioning everything. There's a really fun story in the book that I share about J.J. Abrams. Now, J.J. Abrams, if you don't know, is the director of the new Star Wars franchise. He's taken over the Star Wars franchise. Doesn't get bigger than that. And I was really amused to listen to one of his interviews when they were coming out with The Force Awakens. And he was saying in the interview, he was telling the story of the first time he was screening the unpolished version to the top 4 executives at Disney, because Disney has bought Star Wars. Now imagine that, like really sit with that for a minute. You're J.J. Abrams, could not be more famous and more on top of your game, more beloved by the world, as successful as it gets. And you're showing the Star Wars movie to the top 4 guys who have all the money, who just spent $4 billion on Star Wars. Now imagine, I mean, first of all, how many hours was that first cut? Dark room, sitting there with these 4 people. As soon as it was over, they praised him. They loved it. They're thrilled. And as he walked out, he and Hilda had a conversation that was like, of course they had to say that. They spent $4 billion on it. There's Hilda, even though this man's at the top of his game. Why I love that story is it reminds us that you're never going to kill Hilda. Okay. If you kill Hilda, you're a narcissist. Okay. But you're not going to kill Hilda, even if you're at the top of your game and super successful. She means well. She's showing up to remind you that this matters to you. So what I want you to learn to do is raise your awareness to when Hilda's talking so much. Don't let her run the show anymore. Shut her down with some comebacks. But recognize that when she's loud, it means you're onto something.
I love that. I'm writing that down. When she's loud, it means you're onto something. And I also just want to, that story like hit me so hard because, and so many similar stories, because that is one that I think we all do. We either do something great, you know, give a speech, host a webinar, do whatever we do. And I'm queen of this actually, after, you know, getting great feedback during or whatever, but after the webinar is over and it's just me, it's like, oh, I could have done that. I should have done this. Like, or even people compliment me, right? Someone will tell me something that I really want and need to hear. And then I'll receive the compliment in the moment. And then when it's quiet, when I'm driving home, when I'm all by myself, I'll second guess. Hilda will be like, I think they just felt like they had to say that, or they're just being polite, or, you know, even sometimes like during an interaction, I'm like just full on sharing. But I think it's super important because, let's see, self-confidence and self-esteem are different. And I feel like Hilda is tied in more with our self-esteem. Like she really is the voices that live in our head.
Right.
And I guess what I'm saying is we can be really confident people and show up confidently and still sort of wilt on the inside at the way that Hilda's talking to us.
Right. But if you don't know it's Hilda, that's the point of this book. You assume every thought in your head is true. Why would your brain lie to you? Right. Like, why would it do it? By giving you this tool of Hilda, by naming that voice Hilda, by being in the car, driving home and saying, wait, that's BS. That's Hilda. You can differentiate her nonsense from your truth and reconnect with those positive pieces of praise that you were looking for that were true, and let yourself feel those. So here's how Hilda works kind of scientifically with air quotes here. She puts a thought in your head, which makes you feel a certain way, which makes you act a certain way, right? Thoughts, feelings, actions. That's how you do. So you've heard the positive thinking people say, just think better things and you'll feel better. There's some truth to that, right? If you think whatever your thoughts are, that's what dictates your feelings, and your feelings are what dictate your action. So what Hilda wants to do is fill your head with BS that makes you feel bad, that makes you feel sad, that makes you feel embarrassed, that makes you feel scared. And then you behave accordingly, which is usually to misbehave or not behave, not do something. What we want to do is cut her off at the pass. So now I'm raising your awareness, and I apologize, people. I'm sorry, not sorry, that you will now think of Hilda all the time. And you got to recognize, wait a minute, hold on. That thought, who do you think you are? I'm sorry, that was Hilda. So my truth is, I'm going to answer that question. Well, who I am is fill in the blank. A total badass who has worked her ass off and earned that praise. How do you feel now? Oh, well, wait, I feel empowered by that thought. I feel inspired, maybe even motivated and kind of gooey. I feel gooey. I like gooey. And how do you act when you feel inspired and motivated and gooey? I'm going to do more of that. I'm going to put myself out there more. I'm going to, right? And then you're working as your best self. So that's the whole thing, is we just want to shut her up. She must be stopped, and figure out what the truth is. So we can change how we think, change how we feel, and change how we act.
I know you wrote the book on it, so you couldn't have said it better, but I'm still like, yes. Yes, you couldn't have said it better. So I know we better get wrapping up. You guys, I could talk to Ginny all day long. But I'm looking at my clock knowing it's about time to wrap up. So I want to encourage everybody to go to hildhathebook.com. Download your copy of the book, or you can buy it on start at hildhathebook.com. Like Jenny said, there's an opt-in where you can get your 4 Hildas, which they also show up in the book with the cute little pictures. The book is amazing. It's so good. Lots of people I have on the show. So I wrote a book, which is equally amazing, called Run Yourself Happy. And I heard this a lot when I was promoting that book, where people would say, yeah, but it's like really good. Like it's like a real book. It's not like a book that entrepreneurs write to promote their business. That's just like this giveaway thing.
Like a glorified pamphlet.
Yes. Yes. Like this is a good read. this is a page turner. This is an aha moment. This is like, bring your pen, scribble in the margin. Yeah. And it's a thick book. It's not like.
Right. It's a legit book.
It's so good. So go there where you can take a Hilda quiz, you can get your Hilda infographic, and you can buy your book. So hildathebook.com. I forgot what I was going to say, except for you got to the point about that this isn't about just pointing the finger at Hilda and going, oh, well, there's a bitch who lives in my head, right? It's about recognizing who she is, almost like if she wasn't there, if I wasn't aware of her and I couldn't have that conversation with her, she might, what do you call it? I'm losing my phrase here, but just when you shine the light on something, it changes everything, right? Like you can't, what is the phrase I'm looking for? I usually use the Maya Angelou quote, which is, when you know better, you do better. So once you've seen Hilda, like once you recognize that's her, everything can change because you know it's not you. I know you just said this.
No, it's great. It's exactly right. I mean, by recognizing, you're halfway there. Like 50% of this battle is awareness and recognizing that these messages in your brain are not true. They're total BS. It's a web of lies that have been spun together by a demented documentarian designed to hold you back. And once you've raised your awareness, now I would love to help you figure out what to do with that information. Right. And that's where if you check out my book, you're going to get tons of insights there. There's more coming in your email once you lopped in. It's all about figuring out how to shut that shit down because we don't want to listen to her. Hilda cannot drive us anymore, right? We have to take the reins back. It's no longer her turn. It's our turn. And every listener of Carrie's show wants to do something that matters. You want to make the most out of this, your one spin on this big blue marble. Am I right? Right? You are not here to just sort of do stuff. That's the other 96%. The 4% of us audacious, crazy people who actually believe that we're meant to do something that matters. We're going to have to battle Hilda, but we're going to win.
I love that. And you know what? I like the idea of understanding Hilda and shut that shit down the way that you lay a toddler down for a nap, right? You're like, oh, you crazy right now. Love you. Need some rest. Like, like, I get it. Thank you for your tantrum. You've showed me your limits, or you've showed me whatever. But now, you take a nap. Let's let the grown-ups deal with this. So, oh my gosh, Jenny, I just love you. I love Hilda the book. I want everybody to read it. I love what Hilda looks like. Actually, it could not resonate more with me. If you guys haven't sensed that yet, so if you resonate with me, it's probably going to resonate with you too. Such a good read. If you are a coach, it's going to be so valuable for you to read and sort of adopt that language just so you can use it with your clients too. Like it truly is, just get it. Just get the book, hildathebook.com. Okay. So let's wrap up. Jenny, thank you so much for being here. You are a delight and a wordsmith and just, I can't even tell you. So just thank you.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. This was a blast. And I'm so excited to be a part of this.
Yay. And those of you who are watching, thank you so much for being here. I want to make sure if one of the places where your Hilda shows up is in the physical, if you are a heart-centered woman entrepreneur who knows that you have these 4 energetic bodies, right? Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And you've been on a journey of the mental, emotional, and spiritual, but sorely neglecting the physical, maybe gaining some weight over the past few years, maybe dealing with some brain fog, maybe feeling stuck and unproductive. Maybe you have some real symptoms, headaches, fatigue, lots of people with really random things. Probably too much information, but I had breast tenderness and like armpit lumps. And anyways, all of that. If you are recognizing that the physical is a place that needs some attention and a place where Hilda has been showing up for you, then I urge you to take my hormone quiz. Go to carrieroldan.com/hormone quiz. Take the quiz and we'll see if a Body-mind-business Reboot might be in your future as well. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Jenny, for being here. Here's a great big virtual hug from me. And I will see you guys all on the next episode of the Carrie Roldan Show. Bye-bye.